Alright, so my name is Chanel Carter and I am doing my final submission for the ISSA Strength and Conditioning certification, and I am employed by myself. I am a bodybuilding and physique athlete coach, and I am also my own strength and conditioning coach, and I work closely with my nutrition coach Matt Jansen, but I design all of my own training and programming as well as my clients' training and programming leading up to the stage. So what you're going to see here today is me running through a shoulder workout, and with shoulders as a bodybuilding or physique athlete in bikini division, the structure of the rear delts is very important for a bikini athlete. So that's what I'm going to kind of talk you guys through with the workout. And as far as mobility is getting through the movements pre-shoulder training to help warm up my shoulder joint, and then we're going to move into the work portion of this final exam and then close out with some other flexibility and some stretching routine. But basically I am my own coach, and this is a program that I've designed myself. We are at the beginning stages of my prep for my first show of the 2017 season. So I'm still in a phase where I'm at a caloric surplus, so I can push a lot of weight. I can build up as much tissue as possible during this time before we really structure into more detail work towards the end of my prep. So this workout's going to be a great push, a great source of volume training. This is a part of, I did strength with shoulders last week, so this week I'm structuring mine to be more volume focused, so the repetitions will be pretty high. Let's go ahead and get this workout started. See you guys in.
So the purpose of a true mobility warm-up is that you want to complete a series of movements at a lighter weight or a lighter resistance, and a series of movements that are going to mimic the movement patterns and motor movements that you're going to need for the workout. So one of the compound movements that I like to use the most is a standing press. So I did a press movement here with the resistance band. This next mobility exercise is an arc raise, which is basically activating more of the tissue in my medial delt and anterior delt, which is going to be what is utilized the most in my seated lateral raises, which is the second movement in my workout. So now you're going to go ahead and see my third mobility exercise. And my third mobility exercise following this is using a resistance band, and it's a pull apart. And the pull apart is going to actually activate my rear delts a little bit more. Again, I'm finishing the workout with a lot of rear delt movement. So this is going to be my third activation / mobility movement. With a mobility warm-up, I tend to do a smaller rep range, somewhere between 10 to 15 reps, and I try to do about 2 sets. I basically want to get my tissue in that area nice and warm. I want to draw blood to the surface of the skin, and now we're going to go through and see my workout log and journal. So this is what I do before every single session. I kind of map out the work that's planned. I don't necessarily hold myself strictly to the reps and sets. I just use it as guidelines, because if I can push myself a little bit more throughout the workout, I will.
What you guys are about to see is my barbell cage overhead press. I utilize the cage here to prevent my lower back from taking over the exercise and prevent my legs from using a lot of movement. Again, as a bikini competitor, my physique is very dominant on stage as far as shoulder development goes. So I really need to be moving weight with my shoulders and not with my entire body. So isolation-based strength is very, very important to my programming. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how this works and kind of give you some more voiceovers during the actual workout.
So being a bodybuilding athlete and a bodybuilding coach, again, this movement is really helpful for isolation. Our tactic as strength and conditioning coach for the bodybuilding industry is strictly on muscle isolation. Compound movements often are a little bit more taxing on our bodies, especially in a deficit. So for example, this movement, the cage allows me to strictly isolate that shoulder. Notice how my knees are a little soft. I'm keeping a soft bend in them, but I'm mainly pushing with the shoulders.
Alright, so I'm about to do my first working set. This is the weight I actually did previous to this training cycle. So I've already accomplished this at 65 pounds. So before I attempt a heavier load, I want to see how 65 pounds feels first and foremost. I did get a deep tissue massage yesterday, so I just want to check mobility before I increase in weight. That's always a great safety tip with creating any sort of strength and conditioning program, is to make an attempt at previous loads before going in right into a heavy working load.
So this is going to be my heavy working load. This is going to be my set number 1. Again, this is a weight I have done in a previous week, so I just want to revisit to check mobility, to check function. Notice how my knee does maintain that soft bend. I'm pressing up over the head and releasing my head through the window, as they call it. My grip is nice and strong. My knuckles are facing the ceiling. And my goal here is to get a relatively high rep range. So you may see me take a little bit of a pause at the top just so I allow enough energy reserve to hit that high rep. Now we're moving into my heaviest working load, which is going to be a personal PR on this movement, which is a personal record for me. Because this is going to be the heaviest load that I attempt to do, and it is a new heavy load for me, you're going to notice in the middle of my set, me take what's called a rest pause. And a rest pause is a technique used to correct form and function of the movement and still allow for a chance to push towards a higher rep range. So the rest pause allows me to completely relax my muscle, completely rest the bar back into the cradles, take 5 deep full breaths, and then attempt the movement again. Again, this is a way to protect form and function, protect motor movements, and attempt to just get a heavier working set and heavier rep range for the movement.
So as you can see here, I just went up by 5 pounds from my PR, which was 65 pounds, so I'm now at 70. I was able to only do 10 before I needed to take a rest pause. So a rest pause is just an effort to allow yourself to take a quick recovery before form falters and function downgrades. But I rest pause, take 5 deep breaths, then attempt to move the weight just one more time and see how many reps I can include the workout with. So after my rest pause, I actually ended up getting another 4 reps, so I hit my goal of 14. However, I do think at this point it is time to decrease the weight and go back to my original weight, which was 65 pounds, just for better function, just for better movement of the weight, and attempt a 70 in the coming weeks. But for now, I'm going to take that 2.5 off on each side, go back to 65, finish out my last set.
Moving into my second movement of this shoulder series, we're going to start off with the dumbbell lateral raises. I choose to do seated because seated does allow for more of an isolation, allows for less movement in your lower body to lift the weights. So the goal here is to bring your knuckles to a little bit higher than parallel with your shoulder joint, so you get a full range of motion through the shoulder, targeting mainly the medial delts, but the anterior and posterior are working as well. This really is an optimal movement to develop shoulder joint strength and keep your shoulder joint health in check. Moving into the second set of the dumbbell lateral raises, I wanted to change the camera angle to allow for a front view of this particular movement. So notice how you are able to place your feet up above on the bench raises. However, I felt like I could get a better force through the floor by putting my feet on the ground. And here you're going to see me in about 2 or 3 reps basically going to need that rest pause here. At this point, I am kind of reaching muscle fatigue, muscle failure, so I take those 5 deep breaths, fully put the weight down, and then I attempt to finish off the set. And again, this is a high volume set range, so I want to be able to complete as much as possible before form falters, and I want to be able to maintain that full range of motion so I completely isolate the shoulder socket. And notice how I'm not getting full range of motion right here either. So I know that the set's coming to an end. I've already mentioned in the beginning of the video the importance of the rear delts in a bikini athlete's presentation on stage. So the cable high face pull is one of these great isolation exercises for your rear delts. Notice how your lats and your traps do come into equation here, so it is an overall great upper back movement. But again, the strong focus is going to be on rear delts, and that has to do with your elbow placement. You can place your elbows out a little bit more parallel and really target those rear delts. This last movement in my workout today, I'm actually going to utilize the Smith machine. The reason why I want to utilize the Smith machine is it allows for me, even though I've reached a little bit of muscle fatigue at this point in my workout, it allows for me to have correct form, correct range of motion, and overall control moving the weight. So this rear delt row variation allows me to keep my elbows out. Again, when you keep your elbows out, you're targeting those rear delts and keeping that isolation movement on the back side of the shoulder girdle. This particular movement It does allow you for a strong eccentric contraction, and you basically release at the bottom. So you can pick up the speed here just a little bit. Now I'm going to change the angle at which you see this movement so you truly can see the activation in the rear delts and the difference in your elbow placement. So if your elbows were placed closer to the side of your body, it would be more like a traditional row. But with your elbows flared out, you actually are able to target the rear delts incredibly. And you can also reach muscle fatigue / muscle failure using this movement, because the Smith machine keeps your form in correction and keeps your body aligned in the way it needs to be. And this concludes the portion of my strength training work. And following strength training as a way to aid recovery and a way to cool down, I always spend about 5 to 10 minutes on the either recumbent bike or a spin bike. As a bodybuilder, the focus on our joint health always needs to be in the forefront of our minds. And the great thing about bikes, recumbent bikes or spin bikes, is they offer a low impact form of cardio for the athlete. Following that light cardio, my goal in the remaining part of my cool down is to focus on stretching and my flexibility in that particular motor unit that I worked the hardest. So again, today was shoulder focused, so I want to make sure that I have gain some full range of motion in my shoulder after the strength training. So for the sake of the fact that I am pausing and holding the stretch for about 10 to 15 seconds, I have split up these clips so they wouldn't be as long. I also spend quite a good deal of time foam rolling. The rumble roller that you see here with the notches in it is actually one of the most beneficial forms of recovery and aiding in the fascia tissue release. So foam rolling is a form of myofascial release, which is a self-tissue release that allows to improve blood flow to the particular tissue that was worked. This concludes my ISSA Strength and Conditioning final exam. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch, and hopefully you understood a little bit about how a bodybuilding coach or athlete would design their programming for shoulder training.
That concludes my final exam question for the ISSA Strength and Conditioning certification. Thank you guys for joining me on my workout today, and we'll see you guys later.